In a world where everyone is overexposed, the coolest thing you can do is maintain your mystery. Hello, everyone, and welcome to season 2 of my cast, which we've titled The New Norm. I'm Nithpreet.
And I am Piyush, and we are your hosts. The guest we have today is an IMA alumni and a brand and marketing consultant with over 33 years of corporate experience. He invested his first 17 years of professional life in advertising and media with reputed leading agencies like Mudra, JWT, and Lintus. And his last corporate stint was as the Vice President National Marketing with Dainik Bhaskar Group. He is a visiting faculty at MICA for Media and Entertainment Management. Welcome, Sanjeev sir. We're really excited to have you with us.
So, sir, before we start asking you and start bombarding questions on you, I would like to ask how has this quarantine experience been for you?
It's good in many ways and bad business wise. So good is you found time to be with your family and things that were being pushed because of lack of time or other reasons, you have been able to complete them. So I completed my third novel.
That's wonderful, sir. That's really good. Sir, I'd like to start by asking you that how many nostalgic entertainment shows have you watched during this lockdown period? Because all of us consumed a lot of nostalgic entertainment during the lockdown. With the return of shows like Ramayan, Mahabharat, Shaktiman, and 1990s detective series Byomkesh Bakshi in India and in the UK, the BBC scheduled repeats of memorable sporting moments also from the London 2012 Olympics to football tournament Euro 96. Do you think that nostalgia has renewed our interest in the television?
Let me first go through this thing that I watched Sarabai and Sarabai. Okay, as a only older program that I watched. And I don't think this is about nostalgia at all. Nostalgia for us is more about 1983 and Mauka Mauka kind of a special moment, which the sports channels did use. But otherwise, this Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhumkesh, etc., were need of the hour. Because we have India is entertainment all about, and we have cricket, Bollywood, religion, mythology, politics, and Sas Bahu as our main staple diet. But it was lack of content and lockdown which led to the opportunity. Something like religion, mythology had the power to hold the nation also. So if you look at DD portfolio of things that they played from 28th of March, 25th we had a lockdown, 28th onward happened Ramayana and Mahabharata. I don't know if it was done in that design because Mahabharata came at 9 o'clock in the morning and evening, Mahabharata at 12 o'clock and 7. These are also the hour of your breaking your lockdown. I think it did hold the nation back. Uh, People watched because they had nothing else. They were inside home, they were anxious, and they had more time than they can think of. It was initial phase also, and people were not able to think about what to do with their time. I think it was not at all nostalgia for any one of us. People did enjoy, but if there were other fresh entertainment episodes available for people, they would have not watched this.
Okay, so that's a very interesting perspective. In fact, not just television, Spotify also reported a 54% rise in listeners, making nostalgia inspired playlists and a surge in the streaming of music from the 50s to the 80s. So, nostalgia definitely, I think,
No,
was
no,
like
no, no.
the need of the
Let's
hour.
put that right. That
Okay,
people had time. Okay, no new song were coming. You were mostly in a home environment, which dictates certain kind of songs need to be heard more than other. If you look at individual listening and you break it down by the age groups, you'll find every age group was listening to the music they like. If I was to listen, I would listen to a 80s, 90s. That's my more staple diet. So this age group was listening to that because they don't like the new kind of song, and new generation was listening to the new songs. So earlier, this generation was out in the market working, etc., and they were not listening to these kind of songs. So when they came in, that percentage showed a upper value because you just listen the content to your requirement. I don't differentiate a song between nostalgia or current or old. It's my liking. That's all.
Yeah, yes, sir. And while talking about consumption, we also saw that all the OTT platforms saw a massive increase in their viewership and the time spent by the users. So, do you think that this trend will continue even when normalcy returns? And how do organizations like these ensure subscription in an economy which is not in its perfect health right now?
Okay, let me tell you, lockdown for OTT was the Baba Ramdev Nestle movement for entertainment. Low subscription rate, binge walking, live streaming, low data cost, no new films, no new serial, books are not available physically to be delivered, newspaper is not being delivered at home, family is together at home. Okay? And if you
Yeah.
wanted, you could also watch differently curated show on your mobile in isolation. Lockdown was completely written script as if for OTT. And there was enough time to watch, yeah. Alt Balaji comes to at 300 rupees a year, Z at 95, Netflix at 500, Amazon Prime at 300, RAMXM, others at no cost or mobile trials, YouTube content. Do not forget the YouTube content, how it was consumed. Because OTT at that time had the three A's perfectly plugged in. They were accessible, they were affordable, and it was available. That they had so much of library which was unconsumed till now that all content seemed to be fresh. Now, in that kind of thing, if you know, we ended up one movie ticket going to a PVR and paying money for one movie with the family could give me subscription for the whole year across two, three platforms. It's as cheap as that right now. And anyway, for home, you had your Wi-Fi data anyway enabled. So that was not an extra cost. Now, what will happen post? We will not have the same time. The interest level, the excitement of a new affair with OTT will drop down a bit more. So, like any other media, every one of us is going to have one or two platform as our preferred platform. And the other platform will have to start to give me like TV on demand, not subscription, but that particular content viewing rates. Currently, if Z5 charges me rupees 95 a month, but they launched this new show, they should be able to give me at 7 rupees that show only. If I don't want the library, the game is of subscription because we still have a lot of time. We are still in a initial love romance with OTT kind of a thing. It's not pinching us, and Geo is going to do much more damage or expand this category than any one of us can think of. So I think there will be a settling down of issues that will happen in OTT. The numbers will see a slump for others than the top two, three.
And so you put forward a really interesting perspective that with the price of one movie theater ticket, they could actually afford the subscription for entire year. So coming to that point, lockdown has completely weakened the independent theaters, which were already very fragile, and the number of screen in the country is, as we've compared in comparison to the global standards, it's already low. So, will the film industry emerge unscathed from the crisis? What can we do to, or what can they do, in fact, to resurrect their position?
Uh, it's no doubt, and every one of us are clear that the film industry is badly hit. Okay, more by coronavirus and lockdown than the nepotism that we have been talking about. Film experience with OTT has also opened another debate about the first release or direct release on OTT. Earlier, there was a hierarchy of release. So you have a theater, you had the first right on TV, then it went to OTT, then other formats. Now that has been just broken out. People are happy watching it on the second screen or maybe the third screen itself. The earlier fear of movie watching in a smaller 6.5 inch screen is no longer there. You enjoy it. You're adapted to that kind of a situation. So what is going to happen now is content has always been the winner. And our film industry has not been giving us content that will pull me to go and watch in the cinema now that I have tasted OTT. The lower budget films will come on OTT directly, though my my ration of films will be available to me. So only the films need to change your experience or make the content that can only be watched and enjoyed in the larger format. But that is not going to happen. Crazy idea. Can we have a movie theater where when we go as a group, we all could be watching a different movie at the same time? Possible, yeah. You have you have dance parties where you listen to different music when you're dancing with your partner because there are five DJs playing. Can there be AR glasses kind of thing where I am watching one movie with a earphone plugged in and you're watching another movie, but we are all at the same place? Maybe. I don't know what experience, but something in experience has to come out or the price needs to come down. Because for some time, even if we go to the theater, even if we go, because we are not planning to go to the theater, what is going to happen at that stage is that I'm not going to eat out. And films in theater, the theater makes money on your food and entertainment more than they make on the ticket. So equation is being challenged there. So yeah, they will have to do something different, but I don't think I have an answer currently saying other than a vague blog answer of saying that give me some experience that I will have to come back to.
Sure, it entirely depends on the experience and how they react post this pandemic scene is over. And also now moving to the digital advertising, and we have seen that on platforms such as Google and Facebook, they are set to overtake spending on traditional media for the first time. So, were we already expecting this historic shift right now, or has the pandemic accelerated the process? And how do you think traditional media, like print, for example, which relies heavily on advertising, cope up with this shift?
So first of all, we have been expecting this thing to happen from a long time. Okay, and if you look at even I reports of 17, 18, 21, 22 has been often quoted as the time period when they should have overtaken. Yes, it has accelerated. But I'm not worried because this is a rare of a moment. In this rare moment, the shift happened like OTT. You didn't have any other medium for the brands that were willing to continue to advertise. Digital was only the thing. TV people were not watching. Newspaper was not coming. Radio is nothing anyway we know about. So this became a medium which, and it also gave a period when people were conscious of their cash and investment, some kind of a direct measurement tool. So in digital, I could spend less and at least theoretically have a satisfaction of knowing how my campaign was doing. It became a preferred media, but it will settle down. Not that it will drop majorly. No, once you've started, you're seeing it. This was the biggest fear that newspaper, radio was fearing that when you taste the success through digital, which you come back to me. And I think that is the bigger problem. So print will have to do something with content and raise their subscription prices. They cannot remain dependent upon advertising for long. Look at Hindu. In Delhi, Hindu is 10 rupees, I think, during the weekdays and 15 rupees on the weekend. The dependence on advertising has gone down. But the traditional paper, the regional papers are still at a far lower cost. The medium that I think is going to take us all by surprise and go multifold is digital OOH and pragmatic OOH, digital OOH. I think I've been waiting and I have been subscriber to the fact that this is a underutilized media because the technology was not right at the place. Now we have the technology right at the place. People are looking differently at it. The big companies are showing signs of measurement also coming in. Recently, I think Kinetic did launch their measurement tool. So, so print is going to suffer, and it's going to suffer big time. Print, radio, both are going to suffer. Television will come back to your life. It's appointment viewing. It will fight with OTT, but it will survive. But OH is going to go big. Experiential is going to go big, but even experiential will take more time to settle down. Till our anxiety, our fears, our comfort zone is not re-established, OH and digital, along with TV, will remain mostly the media people will end up using.
Sir, I would like to disagree a bit from you over here because the movement of people will be restricted and we'll all be like working from home like most of us. So how do you think like OH will be able to garner the same amount of
See,
revenue or the
let's say,
prices?
what is the revision line you are looking? 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, 3 year? I'm not saying next quarter OH will become great. Till the time our trust of stepping out does not happen, OS does not have a reason to exist. I'm looking at a timeline which is 1 to 2 years. If you are looking at the next quarter, then only TV and digital and OTT are my media. If you are looking at a longer vision, longer time frame, then you will have to add a big media called OH into it.
Okay. So we recently saw that TikTok was, banned by the government based on security reasons, and the Desi players, our homegrown players, saw it as an opportunity, and they now have around 120 million user base that's there to capture for them. So Z5 has launched EP, MX Player has launched Takata, Ghana has Hot Shots. So how do you think this short video UGC content platforms movement is going from here?
Uh, it's a very opportunistic time for these things because when TikTok was banned, we knew there will be 50 other clones which will come out to fill out the space that the audience was engaging in a heavy dose. They were engaged and involved with TikTok. I've seen TikTok being the medium across age group, across social strata, from a big CEO to the peon, all enjoying this. And hence, we had too many of these coming in into the thing, and Z5 is one of them. But there's no difference between them. It is yet just another platform for content and reach. Z, if you want, I can speak on Z specifically because see, TikTok is about unchained, unconstrained, freedom or dominated space. I can do anything over there. And seriously, the user is not looking at a platform which has directed content. It is looking at highly impulsive, crude content where you see those errors that creep in, which gives you a feeling that I can also do it. So the game of that Z is playing need to be based on two simple things. One is personalization of content, which is a AI driven thing, and secondly, it really has to take that advantage of being inside the Z5 app because Hippie is inside that. It gives them the initial base, but initial base is nothing till you are not able to engage. And they are heavily depending on initial push coming from an influencer that they are going to push onto their platform, which is according to me not really the right. If anybody wants to play this game, then Hippie should have been outside their platform. But they are thinking that Hippie will also work toward making Z5 a better platform. Unfortunately, we are platform agnostic. We are taste and content agnostic. So whosoever is able to engage and get me my flavor of my drink back, I'm going to go and enjoy party with them.
Yeah, sir, absolutely. So now we will move on from the television, OTTs, and the films. Let us get some insights into the world of radio and podcast, a platform that on which we are conversing at the moment. So there
Hmm.
was recently this news article about the entire Joe Rogan experience. The Joe Rogan Experience podcast has marked a milestone in the world by signing an exclusive contract for several years with Spotify for around, I think, 100 million US dollars. As per a PwC report, India is world's third largest podcast listening market. Coming from a place where radio always held a very special place, what makes the podcast so popular?
I think podcast you can think as audio OTT. You visit
Hmm.
to listen
Interesting way to look at
because
it.
because you are exploring, you are experimenting, or you are liking it. That too, you go to the places what you want to listen to. So it's an engagement of a different order. Okay, on radio, if you catch up later in a program, you lose a part of it. And radio is still about entertainment. Podcast may not be about entertainment, but a differential entertainment. Most podcast you can download or stream it. It is still a niche appeal and niche medium, and it will still take a lot of time for podcast to become a very big mass media movement in India for advertisers. We may have a listeners, but we have a very fragmented podcast listeners. So a J. Rogan experience kind of a deal is tough to crack over here. There could have been a Pap Bachchan show and there could have been a Karan Johar coffee on podcast, but we are a different breed of people. Our taste is pretty restricted in it. So I don't think podcast is going to give a big threat to radio because radio itself is threatened by multiple other things right now. So podcast is happening, people are listening, but podcast as a advertising is still in a very nascent period over here. Okay, so I still need to see podcast taking because we have been listening about podcast is going to be the thing for last 4 5 years. But when we started listening of digital to be something in 3 years, there are a lot of activity, a lot of buzz around it. I don't see the same happening about podcasts in the advertising industry. So podcasts are happening, people are listening, but because of certain kind of a limitation podcast has with it, other than the advantage of streaming, downloading, listening at my own time, my content, niche, and all that, it is yet to become something that advertisers will start picking on very selectively.
Sure, sir. And you beautifully listed all the differences in terms of content and the platform and the way people interact with them. So, if we move from it and talk about revenues, so how do you think radio advertising is different from podcast advertising? And do you think one of them has a competitive advantage over other?
See, most of the podcast advertising is what we will classify as a native advertising because the host is talking about it or is interviewing or blatantly pushing it. There are very few times that people do end up using a radio spot kind of a thing to be inserted inside a podcast. Because podcast is about engagement and involvement where I don't want you to break in your chain of thought when I'm listening. Podcast like radio is a simple one-to-one medium. Even in radio, you listen to a radio as if the RJ was only speaking to you. But the quantum of ads are very restricted. Currently, you may have a pre-roll, mid-roll, and roll. So soon we will, when it will successful, we will get a quartile roll, one quartile three, four, and then we will start getting irritated with advertising in podcast. Currently, we are enjoying a period where advertising is very minimalistic. Because it's a very focused experimental listening. It's about content, and less of ad. So I'm enjoying that. The ads are also longer. They come at one go and go out. It's not a kind of a chained multiple ad like you hear in a radio, which gives you time to actually shuffle the station. And you are shuffle those stations because those stations are preset on your machine. Go back 5 years when the set off of stations were not there and you always had to tune in an analog setup. Your propensity to shift a channel was lower than now. It's a touch of a button, you are jumping to the next station. Podcast is totally different than this. You go to that destination and you listen to it. And you have come there with a purpose. Entertainment, serious, content, knowledge, whatever it may be, there is a reason for you to be there. And hence you are slightly more easy with the advertising that comes in and the advertising anyway less. And but there is one thing, it's a niche audience. But niche audience with that is created by a kind of interest. It's more psychographic, interest-led audience, far better than a mass bulleting of other time. But at the same time, you don't know who is listening to a podcast, how much number, geographically control is not there. Sometime later on, we will have that control also. Some places you do find about saying that you're restricted to India podcast listening or that. That will happen much more rampantly. But currently, you are living with it, and you also know the rates wise it's fine, because podcasts give you a far more engaged audience. The rates are slightly better off, but the number of advertisers, the number of listeners are not that great. So we are not going to see a Joe Rogan experience of 100 million payout anytime soon in this country. Yep.
Absolutely, sir. So that was a really interesting segment where we asked you a lot of technical questions related to the media industry. And I am very sure that the listeners have also enjoyed the answers a lot. So now moving on to a little fun section where we bring in, as you just mentioned, the Karan Johar touch of engagement. So, sir, moving on to the rapid fire segment, sir. Are you ready for it?
Yeah, I can attempt. Not an
Okay,
issue.
sir.
So the first question for you is, what is your favorite quarantine activity?
Doodling.
Wonderful. If you could trade lives with anyone for a day, who would it be and why?
I think I would trade life with Kangna now.
And why, sir? That's the part of the question. Why would you trade lives with
I
Kangna
want to
Ranaut?
be that kind of a straight, outspoken, give the kind of burst, and then come back to my life and let Kangna handle it.
Okay. And how many books have you read so far this year?
This year has been low because I'm writing. So I've read about 12 or 13.
Okay. What word would you add to the dictionary if you could, and what would it mean?
More kind of a thing, which is a soap that is too small to use and too big to throw.
So, sir, what is that one product that you would refuse to promote?
If any product is legal, I will never refuse to promote.
Okay. What is the last thing that you liked on the traditional media?
I think the ad that Hindu created about coronavirus.
Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, how politically correct are you?
Two, three. I'm not known to be politically correct.
So, sir, we discussed a lot about this in the technical questions, but what is your preference, radio or a podcast?
I'm still a radio guy.
Okay. And if we talk about Sanjeev Kotnala, the individual, so what would you pick being to the writer, a teacher, or an advisor?
I think I have an option to change that to facilitator.
Yeah, sir. You can change the advisor part to the facilitator.
I'm a facilitator.
Beautiful. So, sir, one of your favorite memories of MICA.
But favorite is actually in the night at 3 o'clock coming to the Chota and meeting students. It was most vibrant at 3, 4 o'clock. And then coming over there and chit chatting with people, many people whom I never knew about.
So, that was the end of our rapid fire segment. And, sir, thank you so much for having this conversation with us, this virtual conversation on the new mode that we are trying. So, how was your experience?
I think this is my second podcast recording. So, and as I said, I've never used that medium that much. It's good. I think you both handle it very, very well.
Thank you,
Basis
sir.
that you both are not physically interacting face to face with each other. This coordination is superbly done. So I think all the best for you guys on that.
Yeah,
Thank,
sir. Yeah,
thank
I
you
would
for
like to
having me.
thank you again for all the valuable stuff that you shared with us.
Yeah, sure.
So, guys, that was it from our side. You can follow MyCast, the MyCon podcast on Instagram. And you can stream us on Geo7, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and Google Podcast as well. Keep sharing, and yes, stay safe. Thank you.